record this thing. Okay, now we're
All
recording.
right.
It's all right. We're still good. Michelle can't join us today, so I'm recording this for her. And she actually said she did watch last week's recording, so it's
Oh, good,
fruitful efforts.
good, good. Well,
So I interrupted you asking Connie how she did.
yeah, that's
Yeah. Well, I really, I'm not good right now. My brain is, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Usually I want it on.
That's all right. Did you struggle with this one a little bit?
I just had a crazy week, and that is not an excuse, and Michael's not going to like that excuse. So, but it's funny because I really took to heart. Where is this on the screen? Got it. Okay, I don't want that. Okay, there we go. I really took to heart like what we could do that was going to make a difference. Like you were really talking about that. I mean, the homework part, but I really took to heart like some of the things. I think with me, and I don't even know if this is the answer you're looking for, but I don't know if there's a wrong or right answer.
No, it's not a wrong or right answer. It's all good.
I'm always like trying to be. I really, really resonated when you were talking about like I try to be everything to everybody, and then I don't do anything well. So I really no, and I'm not kidding. It's like
I hear you.
No, I just am like, you know, because I have this other side thing that I do that I've been off all summer, and now they're starting to fire up, and I can't even really decide if I want to do it anymore. And
Right.
so I'm, you know, I'm at this point in my life where I really was like, where you were talking about how you could make the biggest difference.
Mhm.
And it really stuck with me this week because as I was going through things, I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm just like, it was my husband's class reunion in Eureka, and I'm doing my niece's wedding in December. So like, it was just like so much. And I kept saying to myself, am I making it like, what's going on? Am I making a difference, or am I just like all over the place? And
Right.
I've been trying, I've really been a little bit like what Kevin's going through. I'm trying to just, I don't know. It's really, I really have been thinking about it a lot. I'm like,
Okay, well, as we go through today's exercise and then your homework for this coming week, and it might be 2 weeks. Is it 2 weeks, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we don't have it next week.
This is actually good that we'll have 2 weeks worth of practice time to put these things into place, because this week we talk about narrowing the focus a little bit. You're always going to have all those roles, but we need to figure out what are the most important things to deal with. What's the one thing you could do today? You know, getting into that. Rhonda, how about you? It doesn't matter if the homework is done or not.
Yeah,
I
didn't
be your
do it,
teacher. Don't worry about. I mean, you know, like
I
this
have
is not
been,
Catholic school.
yeah, and I'm just busy, and
Yeah.
I didn't take the time to sit down and do it. And I actually talked to Michelle yesterday. We had a meeting, and I said, I need to do that homework. And I said, I don't think I'm going to do it today because I've got so much on my plate.
It's okay.
Just take it easy. You're all right. So I did not do it. So
Okay, that's all right.
and I don't even know that I thought about it, to be honest with you, because there's just a lot going on.
Right.
And that's one of the things that you need. I know that I need to just kind of rein in that have too many things going on.
Okay. So
Isn't that funny that we all have way too much going on to implement something that would help us manage when we've got way too much going on?
It's so true.
Yeah.
It is true.
We're a stupid species.
And I was just thinking, isn't it interesting, you know, that again, when sometimes we're feeling human, like we have this and that going on and we can't, and we're having a hard time, that at least every single one of us said us last week, it was just call it in the air, that it was, we were kicking ass and taking names. All I'm sure moved things forward, but we could not, we all ended up with the same things of not being able to do what I called our own psychological evaluations for ourselves. And that's,
so do you guys remember that very, very first video where the gravel's being dumped on the guy, right?
Yeah.
And then he finally feels like he's got himself out, and they bring on a new a dump truck of gravel. These things happen. And to Kevin's point, sometimes you get so overwhelmed. And like Rhonda, there's so much going on, you can't even stop to breathe.
Mhm.
What's
Those are the-
interesting, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've been acknowledging it for the last few years to myself that when you see it happening in everybody's circle, it tells you there's nothing wrong with your circle. It was just a reality of going on for everybody
Right. That's very
during
true.
that giving week or time period.
Right. That's very true. Sometimes it is a cycle that it's a specific week. And sometimes that can drive us to the point where we are done. Right. I'm just
Mhm.
done. I can't take any more.
Mhm.
Rhonda, I know you hear this. I can't take any more. I'm walking away. I'm never coming back.
Mhm.
So we want to be able to just sort of rein it in a little bit, control what we can control, because there is so much that we cannot control. Can you guys control when you get on the freeway if there's an accident in front of you? No, you can't. Crap happens.
Mhm.
So,
It's all just
Um,
business.
yeah, but looking at those rules, and one of the things you're going to hear me say, I think I said this last week as well. I'm going to say this over and over today. What's the one thing? What's the one thing that I can do? And when it starts to get crazy, and I know it's crazy a lot, pull yourself in, take a breath. Always remember the power of the pause. There's that moment things come at us. And they do come at us. It's not knocking on your door, it just lands in your lap. It's right there. And our instinct is to react to that like it's a saber-toothed tiger, because it is hardwired into us from the caveman days. This is danger. I have my time. I'm working on this. This is encroaching on my psyche, my focus, whatever. So it's a threat, and our immediate reaction is to shoot it with arrows. Really, the most important thing to do, and it's a very difficult thing to develop, is that moment of pause. The thing comes at you, you stop and take a breath
Mhm.
and make a decision about how you're going to react.
I
And,
really like that, because there's so many things in our lives that I think it falls into Q1 where both of my flights got canceled last week. They just got canceled there. And it was funny because I don't know if it's a God thing or what that you just said that, but I actually, for the first time in my life, was like, there's not a thing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you react, oh my gosh, the weather's fine, blah, blah, blah,
That's right.
But no, it's very interesting because it's just so true. I've really been trying to, like, if it's something I can't control, if it's something I can control, like I really should have gone back to that client because blah, blah, blah. That's a
Right.
different story. But when it's something that you can't control, like stuff that falls into Q1, that's important. You can't get home.
Right.
My luggage I never did get my luggage. Like I do now, but what are you going to do? Really, what are you going to do?
Just got to kind of deal and roll, right?
Mhm.
And that's a very hard place to be. Michael can attest to this. I tend to react very Sicilian. What?
I know.
It's a difficult thing for me to go, whew, it's okay. I don't need to shoot them and kill them. It's all right. We can deal with this.
Exactly.
They are dead to you once it's all over.
Once it's all over, they are dead to me.
Yeah.
But no, it's really funny that you just said that, because I actually, but I really was working on that last week, because I was kind of like, okay, there isn't anything I can do. This isn't fun. I mean, I didn't have my
Right.
clothes for my husband's class
Right.
reunion. I had to regroup. They're getting a bill for clothes because, but really, like, there wasn't anything I could do. My husband was all over the board on the phone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm home. I'm safe. God got me home safe. Like, he didn't get my
Right.
luggage home safe or when I wanted to get home. But it's interesting. I really have been working on that. It's interesting that you
That's
just
good.
said that.
That's emotional intelligence right there, defined. Taking that moment to just calm down, and it's all right. So it's all going to work out. If you couldn't get your homework done this last week, nobody's going to come. But the homework police are not going to show up, Rhonda.
Right.
Get to it when you can get to it. It's going to be fine. There's no stress about it. Let it all go, and we're just going to continue on. So let's go ahead. Let me pull up our screen. And, again, I'm sorry, I do have to kind of go back and forth for our videos, but we have a couple of good ones today that, actually my favorite is in, well, my second favorite, because I love the one about the Garibaldi kid, but my second favorite is up today. So we're going to work on this particular issue that we've been talking around already this morning. We're going to identify what are the big rocks versus the gravel. The big rocks are those things that we need to do. We absolutely must do, and they have to be scheduled first. So with that in mind, we know the gravel is going to fill in around it. And choice 3 is all about scheduling the big rocks. Don't sort the gravel. The gravel is going to fill in anyway, right? So, for example, if you've put, and Rhonda, I'm going to use you as an example again. If you've put stress and a burden upon yourself about not being able to complete the homework on time, I'm going to tell you that that's gravel. Let it go. Just let it go. You'll have time later. You'll have time. Don't worry. Because the big rocks are going to be those things where you have deadlines, right? That have to be done. Was there a magazine deadline this week, you guys?
Not this week.
Last week or the week prior.
Week prior. Okay.
Yeah.
So were there meetings you had to have this week?
Yes, I had a lot of meetings.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. So those are going to be things that we identify. We're going to put on the calendar. We're going to practice that a little bit. Those are things that are big rocks. Did anybody have a doctor's appointment this past week? If you did, okay, that's going to be considered a big rock because you don't get the opportunity to just go in and change the doctor's calendar, right? When you're lucky enough to get that appointment and the time is set, then the time is set.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much you can do about that, but be there and be present and give that the 100% it's due for that time period. I would love to think that all meetings are 30-minute meetings or 1-hour meetings. And that's a beautiful mythical world with unicorns and rainbows and glitter and fairy dust, but it's not always going to be that way, right? So we're just going to put our attention where we need to in the moment, and we're going to focus on that. Let's take a look. I guess we already go to our first video. So you guys know how this goes. Unfortunately, it's it's a little bit of a dance for me. So we'll get over to that. And it is.
Only a dance for you, my wife.
Okay, yeah, I know you
Hey,
guys.
back off my client. I had a person ask in Bible study, hey, what do you mean by your client? Who's your client? I said, I work for God. You're all my clients.
Yeah.
They laughed.
All right.
I don't like people being mean to themselves.
Yeah, it's an easy thing for us to do, though. We're easy
Yes, ma'am.
scapegoats for ourselves. Let's get back to our. Where is it? Oh, here we go. All right. All righty, here we go. And I think the dance is about to be done. We have a video here and we can go to this. Here we go. It's just a little clunky.
Hello, I'm Aidan O'Neill with Franklin Coffee. We're here today in sunny London, home of the schedule, clocks with first names, Greenwich Mean Time. And this thing, we thought if anybody could prioritize their time, it would definitely be the Londoners. Let's go find out. Excuse me. David, nice to see you. All of that. You're a dancer?
I'm a butcher by trade. I have a number of people working for me.
Can you show us any dance moves? Lovely, lovely, lovely.
I got a couple of sons, a couple of ex-wives.
Do you feel like there's enough hours in the day?
No, generally not. Generally not.
Feel your pain?
I get up about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Rush about getting ready to get out the door in time.
Yeah.
Get in the car. Hope there's not too much traffic about.
There's a lot to be done in only 2 hours of the day.
Absolutely.
Right, which moves us swiftly on do our task. This is your life right here. This is you. Can you see the resemblance? Over here, this represents the unimportant things in your life, the things that you have to do. They're quite urgent and you have to do them. When you get to work, what do you do? Email. There's one email. Laundry. The laundry has to be done. The ironing. Can you hear that? Is that the phone ringing? It's your ex-wife's mother-in-law. Oh, lovely. Loads in there. I think that's probably about right for me.
Is that enough rubbish in my
You
life?
gotta keep going. So how do you feel about half your life being taken up by these unimportant tasks?
I'm a bit frustrated at times.
But over here, these are all the good things in your life. Really important, great opportunities, family, goals and things like that. Do you want these things in your life?
Most
So your task is, you've got to get these rocks into this pool, which is your life. But you're not allowed to go over this level. And if you can do that challenge, I'm going to give you a nice crisp 50 pound note. Oh! Would you like to choose to put in first?
But at first, family.
Family. You've got a lot of that, haven't you? Everybody's going for family. Friends, looking at key relationships. Oh, it's not that you're burying your two ex-wives down there. No. Business opportunity. That's a big rock. That's a very big rock, actually. He's going straight for the holiday and vacation. Customer relationship. So important to you.
They are indeed. Exercise.
Let me see them stomach muscles. Rock hard. Like a stone, like that. What about that big pink one? What does that say? Customer relationship. Exciting new projects. That always keeps me motivated. What about the brown one at the end there? Not quiet. Need to get rid of some of the stuff I don't need to do. You're getting really into this, aren't you, Bob?
Stuff I put in first, like spiritual stuff and the family and the love is kind of it's the important stuff, really. Probably get rid of exercise.
Meats, birth bums. You do community service and Bob? No. Love is left out. Oh, that never works for me. Doesn't work for you. If it happens, it happens. You can reorganize it. You gotta make room. You need love in your life. You don't let love on the line there, my man.
You find that you can't squeeze everything in.
There's too much of disgruntled life in the way.
It will be good to get rid of some of these so that we can put some of these in.
And then pour the green life on top of it. Then fill in all the little values of my priority or what I want in life. You want to try that? Yeah. Okay.
Why didn't you tell me you had this?
I didn't know it was down there. You're taking a new angle on this, aren't you? I am. I'm feeling good. You feeling good? Get it in there. I'm happy. It's good.
You still need the emails. You still need them.
Really
Because
need
yes, because the emails, unless they're spam, you don't need spam.
There you go. Nah, you want some more than that.
See, look, they're fitting around the other things.
You gonna leave out some of the mundane things?
Definitely.
You gonna leave some out there?
Yeah.
Is that a stand you're taking and you're gonna stand by that?
I am, yes. I'm happy and confident with that.
Well, you're a rich man now. You've got yourself 50 pounds. Yes. What are you gonna do with your 50 quid?
Get a haircut.
Is there a moral to our story?
I've learned that I need to sit back and re-examine my life and put my priorities in the right order.
You can fit things into a day or a bowl if you really need to.
You can fit things into a day or a bowl if you really need to. There you have it, people. Do the important things first, and everything else just falls into place. You know, I've just thought of something important that I can do right now. Well, maybe it's just fun. Cheers!
Okay,
Is your company, is Franklin Covey based out of Europe, out of London?
what was the question? I could.
No, they're based out of Salt Lake.
Yeah, they're based out of Salt.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
They're an
sorry.
international company, though.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fun. I'll give you 50 pounds if you can put it in order. I like it.
I just saw James's tummy in the picture there for a minute. There it is. Oh, is it a boy or a girl, James? Oh yeah. Don't do that again.
Well, I just love that he could, in the end, do that little kick. That, jump in the air kick thing, that just slays me every time. All right, let's see here. Stop share again. Let's go back to that. Let's figure out
While
where
you're
we
doing,
are.
while you're doing that, we had, you guys have, broken record talking about the old days, the KMS old days. We used to have our salespeople at our annual meetings do presentations. And we had one of the gals that was one of our sales reps did that demo with the rocks in the sand. She used sugar and big rocks. And it was amazing. It was so impactful. It's what I saw hundreds of those over the years of managing these people. That's the one I remember. The second one I remember the most. Another one of our consultants sang her presentation. That was unforgettable. But it's really an amazing
Interesting.
demonstration of how
Mhm.
that works. That when you do this, and we will always struggle with that because it's really easy to check emails off your list and take off the trash and make that one call, and you've got a bunch of stuff done before 8:30 in the morning and you feel good about yourself, instead of planning out your sales month and who you're going to call, which is a big rock. And then all that other crap done, and then, oh, it's lunchtime. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
have the energy for that. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all guilty of
Very,
that.
very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
It's very true. It's really easy to get caught up in all the little stuff and think that it's incredibly important. And the truth is we're procrastinating, right? And there are times to
Especially-
procrastinate. And
Especially when you work from home.
Right.
especially when you work.
Which we all do.
Sometimes I envy Rhonda because when you work from home, you're like, oh crap, I need to switch my laundry. And wow, I struggle with that every day. I'm like, no.
It's very
And
true.
Rhonda actually works. Rhonda, you're not there every single day, right? You work across
there.
the road and
Yeah.
at home, and
I'm usually here.
Yeah, she's there most of the
Mhm.
time. And then
But-
some.
I have a lot of meetings that I go to, so I'm in and out a lot.
Right. All right, well, let's take a look at these questions that we have here. What happens if you don't take care of all the gravel? All of it.
It just
Nothing.
piles up.
It just piles up. And I'm guilty of that. Obviously, Michael knows that for sure. There are things that I just don't do till I get to them. We bought this fabulous new steamer, and I had clothing that I had to steam, and it took me 2 weeks to get through the pile.
Mhm.
So that's the gravel, right? But what's the difference between scheduling the big rocks and sorting the gravel? What are the big rocks,
Well, what's amazing is, they said, I've seen the demonstration you're talking about before. You put in the big rocks, then the gravel goes in, and people don't realize you have so much more capacity. You then can add water, you can then add salt
Right.
and sugar, and it's all there. But if you don't do business up front and handle the big rocks, the rest of it becomes a major nuisance. And-
Right, and part of what we saw in the demonstration is there was one person who decided to just get rid of some of the gravel.
That was cool.
Sometimes we pick gravel because we're avoiding the big rocks.
The rock. Yeah.
And traditional time management, it's got those tips in it and those tricks for organizing and sorting through that gravel in order to get more things done. But choice 3 is not about sorting the gravel. It's not about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done. It's about using your discernment and picking the correct things to work on. As we go through the 5 choices, we act on the important, go for the extraordinary, which was last week. And this week we're in scheduling the big rocks. Don't sort the gravel. And why would this be the next choice for us in the 5 choices? It helps us to figure out what we need to focus on, right? Because once we get that more in alignment, and you might have to do this every day to remind yourself. You may need to do this every week to remind yourself. You certainly want to go through, it's a traditional thing. in our culture that we go through this on January 1st and realign and make our resolutions. But as human beings, we need to do this really on a daily and a weekly basis in order to stay aligned. So we're going to talk about that, but it's not about making sure you can do more in the day. It's about making sure you do the right things in the day. So we're going to schedule the big rocks, those most important things. We're going to give priority to those items that are worthy of our special, specific attention. What are real, what's really important. Of course, it's important to have clothing on when you go into public, but you don't have to steam the entire wardrobe before you can find something and get dressed and go take care of your business. So we want to make sure that we create the behaviors by starting with a master task list. And then we're going to break that down. We'll do a little bit of weekly Q2 planning and break it down and go into daily Q2 planning. And what's important to know with the Q2 planning is that there are things that are on there that are very important for you to take care of so they don't become urgent. Some of those might take a little longer than you expect when you set it up. So we even roll with that. And we'll talk about how that works as well. Important things that we want to talk about in order to achieve our greatest accomplishments, I guess, in life are really going to be focusing on the big rocks and not the gravel, because the gravel is always there to distract us and it can pretend to be urgent. So think about that. When is something pretending to be urgent to distract you and move you away from what you need to accomplish? Because it's often harder to do those big things. They're not as sexy or glamorous or fun. They require attention. So these actions of going through and making your list, prioritizing and scheduling are key to what we're going to do here, what we're going to be working on. All right, we're going to go to one more video. Excuse me. Let's stop share and get this set up for you. Any questions for me so far? Okay.
Eye-opening, but not questions.
You what?
I said it's eye-opening to be reminded of this stuff.
I have a question. What do you do? What are you doing after class?
Stop it.
So bad. All right, hang on. I got it going, but I don't. Where's my pause? There it is.
Oh, you're funny.
Okay.
Funny boy.
Where's my pause? Yeah, you should live with him if you think he's funny.
Oh boy.
Oh, it's so sad.
For you.
Do you guys both work in separate offices, or do you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, after I'm done here, I'm going into my office.
Oh,
Here we
Yeah.
go. No, there we go.
Your week will almost never go according to plan. Things come up, and you'll just need to adjust. That's why you'll want to finish every day with Q2 planning for the next day. During this time, you should close out the current day by reviewing your appointments and tasks. Also, capture any key decisions, information, or actions that happened during the day. Then ask yourself, what are the few must-dos for tomorrow? These are the important Q2 and even Q1 things that are so important that you probably wouldn't want to end your day until they were accomplished. Finally, organize the rest. This simple 10-minute practice at the end of the day will help you clear your mind and get a good night's sleep because you will have taken care of the most important things. By keeping the 30-10 promise, you will build a balanced perspective, escape the messy maze of daily activities, and create a pattern of life where your most important Q2 priorities get your finest attention and effort.
That one always confuses me because I believe it is out of order, but we are going to get into defining what all of those things are.
Your screen is black, my wife.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's all right. Let's see here. It's okay. This. All right. Now, can you guys see that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. So the things that we're going to work on that she talked about in that, she really kind of foreshadowed where we're going here, is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on a master list. And we won't go way into this today because just in the short time that I get to see you guys and speak with you, I know your lists are longer than we can do in a session. I never ever complete anyone's list in a session. You guys will take this as part of your homework. This is also where I lost somebody in a class once because she was overwhelmed by her list and could no longer, now she wrote everything out that she needed to do. She couldn't take the class anymore because she was overwhelmed. That's the opposite of what this is about.
Yeah.
When you come to this list and you start writing your list, you're going to write the list as a master list. That's everything. From there, we'll break it down into what do you need to do weekly, and then what do you need to do daily. So when you look at your list, and I mean it, this is really a full encompassing list. It will be everything from put gas in the tank to call on your clients. You know, when you don't have to list all of it out. You don't even need to read, really write down here that you're going to put gas in the tank. You know, that's the gravel that's happening. That's stuff that has to be done. You will add stuff onto this list that are not big rocks. And that's part of the importance of the list. As you write down those things that you must do, all the other stuff's going to start popping up. Oh yeah, but I need to do this too, and I need to do that. And I need to get my nails done. And I need to iron something. And I need to send that proposal to that client that I meant to send it to, and I forgot earlier today. The list goes on and on and on. So as you write your list, you could start right now by just writing, you've got page 44 in your booklet, write down a few things, just a couple things.
Are you talking about just anything that we have to do today, or?
Yeah, anything that you need to do to fulfill your roles, whether that's today or this week. And like I said, we're not going to take a whole lot of time on this. We just need a couple things to work with. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move along because you guys are not going to be sharing these things with each other unless you choose to. You're working on your own personal list and your own stuff. And the importance of having one list is because you want to be able to capture everything in one place. Whether you choose to do that digitally or on paper, that is completely up to you. A couple things will happen as you start to write this out. Some people will call it a brain dump or a mind dump because it really does help to clear all the gravel out of your mind and your brain. You're able to focus. After you write it all out, you're able to focus because now you just like barfed up all this stuff you know you have to do, and it's way too much. But you can start to get into organizing it now. What here on this list really needs to go into that Q2 planning stage. And then you can help to organize it in a way that makes sense for you and handle the incoming stress and stuff, all the stuff that's coming at you all the time. You can start to categorize it in a way that makes sense. So certain things are going to belong to this role and certain things are going to belong to that role. It helps you just, once you mind dump it all out, be able to start to break it down. And then one of the other things you're going to do is you're going to go back to this list and you're going to check off those things that are clearly Q2 role and goal aligned. So if you just take a quick look at the list you already started, no matter how short it is, what on that list is aligned with your Q2 roles and goals? Is there something you could check off, or did you write down some gravel? I'll be
Both.
stunned if you didn't write down any gravel. But you can tell me.
Well, we wrote down both, but are you asking what's a Q2, like what has to be done?
Yes, and you don't have to tell me what it is.
Oh.
But looking at your list, did you write down some things that were priorities and some things that are gravel?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, of course you did. Of course you did. The longer the list becomes, the more of the gravel will fill into that list, but your priorities will be there too. The more you get through the brain dump, you might even remember all of a sudden, oh yeah, I forgot. There's this other big, huge rock because you have pushed it aside and tried to forget. Subconsciously, you're like, I don't even want to look at it. It does not exist. I don't need to have that mole checked by the doctor, whatever it is. So be aware that as you run through this list and you do this, it's kind of never ending because every day will be a little different. But you're able to discern now, where do I need to actually put my energy? And as you take care of the big things that have to be taken care of, will you stop and get gas during the day if you need it? Most likely, yeah, right?
If I have to.
If you have to, absolutely.
And some of these they're always going to be repetitive, the gravel, because you're always going to need to get gas. You're always going to have to go to the grocery store. I'm going to have that. Some, like 50% of mine feels just like I have to do these things in a day, and it may be 20 things, but I have to do those things. Those rocks for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any big rocks that are repetitive that you have to do?
Yeah.
Monthly. Yes.
Absolutely.
Monthly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also a really good thing to notice is what's the cadence? As you start to figure that out. Do you go to the market every day? Do you go to the market every couple of days? Can you better design that time? They're thoughts. They're just thoughts around that. I keep having little work notices pop up here, so I need to get rid of that. So what we're doing is we're developing these behaviors right now where we work on this master list, and from your master list, this will be your homework over the week. You will really work on your Q2 planning. What are those things that are most important? And then you will do it in a weekly and then bring it down into the daily. So you look at the big picture first and then get more into the granular details of it. And then it also breaks things down to a way where they're a little more digestible, because we're overwhelmed when we look at the big picture. We're often very overwhelmed by it. So you start with that and then, okay, so I cannot eat the elephant in one bite, but perhaps if I break it down, we can get to it in a more effective and meaningful way. So let's go ahead. Let's see if we can go up to this. Am I the right one? I won't make it larger till I know if I'm looking. Yep, okay. So let's just take it back to the beginning. And there we go. I think this might be easier than the other way I was doing it. You guys have any questions for me?
No.
Do you ever get lost in the maze of daily demands, switching crazily from one thing to the next, trying to keep track of everything and everyone? When you get to the end of your day, have you ever felt like you've done a lot, but accomplished very little of what will truly move you forward. When you're caught in this messy mode of living and thinking, it's easy to lose track of your most important quadrant 2 priorities. You can even lose yourself. So how do you regain perspective and refocus? You hit the pause button and consciously reflect on the extraordinary outcomes you're trying to achieve, and if the activities you're doing align with those outcomes. One of the best ways to do this is through quadrant 2 planning. Quadrant 2 planning is very different from regular planning. You're not just concerned about organizing your schedule, rather you're concerned about what's in your schedule in the first place. You want to make sure that your weeks and days are organized in a way that will bring you the greatest return on your time and effort. When you're planning from a balanced Q2 perspective, you access the more thoughtful and discerning parts of your brain, which help you make better choices about how to invest your time and energy.
There's a whole tract, the upper part of the cortex, from frontal all the way back to temporal areas and parietal areas, which have to do with the main attentional network. And that's when we choose to pay attention to something. And then what they call the bottom up is all of the different areas below the cortex, which are receiving the sensory input, the ringing phone, the things that are distracting you. And we have a culture now where we're increasingly being affected by these peripheral bottom-up processes rather than controlling it through the top-down. The frontal lobe is probably the area most important in terms of creative ideas, new ideas. And if it's not functioning properly or it's overwhelmed with the bottom-up stimuli that's to pay attention to all the time, and as a result, creativity will be depressed. So there's a risk there, and when you don't have real authenticity, well, you're not really the person you want to be because you're responding all the time to the things that are distracting. And you haven't focused your attention, and you don't ponder if you're distracted. Skim talking, skim reading, skim thinking. So you have to get some depth, you have to have some time, you have to exert some judgment, and you have to ponder things.
As a best practice, pause and take at least 30 minutes each week before the week begins to plan the week ahead. Then, at the end of each day, pause and take 10 minutes to plan the day ahead. It's what we call the 30-10 promise. 30 minutes each week and the 10 minutes each day you spend in thoughtful Q2 planning will transform the time you spend everywhere else. Why is that? Because when you ask yourself what's most important, you get different answers, better answers, than if you're simply working to fit it all in. Quadrant 2 planning isn't about making checks on a task list. It's about making better choices about where to spend your time and energy.
I always like that particular video because it makes me, even though I do this course over and over, it makes me focus again and remember, oh yeah, I need to go back and work on my master list and work on my weekly and my daily planning. So no matter how much you do this, you always need to go back and sort of realign yourself. Have any of you done this kind of planning in the past? Yeah. And did you sort of just stop? For some reason, you don't even really know why?
No, it's what's made me as effective as I am with, even though the world has been more crazy in recent years. I mentioned before, and yesterday is one of those days, I enjoyed being in, for lack of better words, 5 cities in 24 hours, what got accomplished. And the way I get it accomplished and enjoy what I do is my legal pad. And like today, I need to go to the office, grab magazines, say hi to Rhonda, kick James in the butt, and then I need to head for Chico and see Downrange and another place on the way. Outside of that, the rest of it all becomes gravel, but everything's in writing on my pad where I can constantly be evaluating and reevaluating what the priorities are.
That's good. That's good. And then one of the things you need to think about when you're doing this is being aware of the space and the shared space and really being active in that so that you accomplish what you need to, and then you can move on and get going.
Yeah, if it's in writing, don't worry about what's in writing, but constantly I look at that and I go, okay, what's the next priority? What's the next blessing? What's gonna give me satisfaction and in a job well done and doing what needs to be done
That's good.
and enjoying the whole trip, so to speak.
That's good. One thing I would, I guess, not caution you over, but make everyone aware of is when we are physically involved with doing these things, it can sometimes be really easy to get distracted because conversations start. And we have to go back to what is my master list? What is the one thing I can do that's most important here? And I'm going to say that over and over as we talk today. What's the one thing that I can do that's going to make this better? What's the one thing that I can do that's going to improve my performance? So as you look through your list, you do go through prioritizing what are those most important things. And then capturing it all in one place. Like I said earlier, it's going to clear your mind of all the gravel, but you're going to go back to that gravel. You're going to go back to it. We default to the gravel. It's distracting. This is where we need to really focus on what is important for Q2 and to really categorize things, because when you're in that personal interaction, that will always confuse this list, because what feels most important and what is most urgent is what's in front of us right now. And that just might be a distraction. So, we already did this one. As you have those interactions, make sure that you are somewhere in your brain connecting with your roles and your goals, and you schedule your big rocks at the beginning of your week so that you can organize everything else around it. So this is that 30-20 rule that she was talking about. And I don't know about you guys, but every time I see her, I'm always like, I'd like to brush that hairspray out of her hair and let it move a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a distraction, right? Okay, get back on topic. So I have to redirect myself every time. But 30 minutes a week, if you spend that at the beginning, and for me, I actually changed these rules slightly. I will do this Friday evening for Monday because it's so hard to take the weekend off. And if I don't have Monday set up, my next week set up, I will go back to it and I'm distracted and I'm working it out and mulling it over. So I tend to do the weekly planning Friday evening before I leave the office. Some people are best doing it Monday morning before you get started. Whatever works for you works. It's the process, not the rules, that are important. So you take a look at your big list and you spend this 30 minutes putting those big rocks onto your calendar that must be scheduled, and everything else you can organize around the rest because it will fill in. So connecting with your Q2 roles and goals, go back and look at those again. They're going to change and shift throughout the week, throughout your year, most definitely throughout your life. But you have work goals for your work roles, and you also have personal roles. So it is important that you make time for both, because this illusion of balance that we talk about does not happen if you only focus on your work. And if you're lucky enough to be retired, you can only focus on personal, and that's perfectly fine. But those of us who are still working, we have to do both. And that's okay. That's our life. And that's perfectly fine. Now, the way we're going to do this, you guys actually have a paper calendar there in your printouts that you can practice on. You're going to put onto your calendar when you do your planning, those big rocks, those things that cannot be moved, they go down on your calendar first. And it's great to have a practice calendar to just sort of work this out a little bit. You could, this is an example of an Outlook calendar, and that's what I work out of mostly. Do you guys, any of you work out of Outlook?
My husband does, but I don't.
Okay, you don't have to. It's a common thing in offices, but not always for folks who are on the road, not always for folks who are working independently. This is just the example we have. So that's what it looks like on paper. You can do very much the same thing with a Google Calendar, or you can just use a paper calendar, whatever you're comfortable with. Next week, we go into working with technology and how to get technology to help you. I have a lot of things that I work with that are on the computer. I have my computer and my phone synced. People work with tablets, whatever it is you work with. The most important thing is that you have your calendar available to you, and whether you keep your tasks like in Outlook, you can keep tasks running along the bottom or along the side. You have options there. You have your task list and you have your calendar, and we keep them together. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So for this example, she's written in the bottom of her calendar tasks that have to be done and sort of assigned them basically to the days. But that's the gravel. The important thing is she has put on her calendar her big rocks. Those do not move. And she has in there a mix here. This is Jennifer's calendar we're looking at again. So she has a mix of her personal life and professional life. That's what we'll get to working with. So when you look at your calendar as a whole and you start working with it, you plug in those things that cannot be moved, the doctor's appointments, meetings with teachers, meetings in general that are standard meetings. So another thing that's on this calendar here, 8 o'clock on Mondays, this is something that I personally have with my office. I have a team meeting every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. That has to go onto my calendar and it cannot be moved. Now, sometimes we might move it as a team because something else comes at us that's more urgent from the C-suite. You guys have basically the same situation there. Something comes at you that's more urgent from the office. As a team, you move it, but you always have that time reserved because that is traditionally when it happens. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, from this is your master list. These are the things that have to happen each day. From that, it's really easy to take tasks that need to be done and let them fill in. You can either write them down in certain places or you can allow them to fill in on their own. But let's go back to that. I'm not done with that page yet. One of the most important things here is there are white spaces on this calendar. There are chunks of time where there's nothing planned. That is really important. I'm going to come back to that. It's very, very important. So you also have on pages 50 and 51 different like exercise worksheets where you can look at your role, figure out which role you're focused on for this particular section. And then what are your big rocks for that role? And those have to be personal and professional. So we'll go back to my example of my role as a friend with my friend Senia, my best friend that I have to actually see, and we live in the same city, and how weird it is as an adult to realize that I need to focus on that and develop those skills again. So I will have, for example, with her, I'd have on here 1, 2, 3 things that I need to do. I need to call her at least once or twice a week. I need to call her. The second thing is I should see her if I can. Once a week, we try to see each other. Really, it's once every other week. So put that down. Do I need to book my dinner with her, my girls' night out or whatever? And then the third thing is I try to check in with her every evening. And that can be as simple as sending her a TikTok. She's big on goofy little things. So those are important things for my role with her. Now, they're not huge examples that I'm using for this, but you get the point.
I do.
There's something else that I'm going to have to do as a regional sales manager for for my region. And I'm going to need to send some very specific reports to my top diamond accounts. I need to also make sure that I make these calls that go out to all of my star achievers for the past week. And then I'm also going to need to make sure that I post on Facebook in their level pages, because I've broken down special pages for them for each level, the updates for the week. What are our training programs for the week? What are our classes for the week? What are our special events going on during the week? And for this week, for example, it would be different than last week because this week I have a special promotion. So those will shift and change every week, but you sit down and do that to get started. So as you go into your week, you can achieve those big rocks, because those are what help you. You can tackle the big rocks because they will help you achieve your Q2 roles and goals. You have to define that for yourself. How will they help you do that? And in what ways do these big rocks actually represent Q2 activities? So I know with my region, if I don't connect with my jewels, that's what we call them, eventually sales will fall off, and I'm not going to reach my corporate goals. Somebody's going to take a look at that, want to know what the heck I'm doing. So that's important. How are they going to help me do that? What are these actions that I have going to help me do that? It's going to invigorate them. It's going to inspire them, or whatever it is. It's going to give them the information that they need, the tools that they work with. Looking back at those things, looking back at your list, and as you design your week, making sure you're asking yourself the important questions. Why do I need to do this? If I don't do this, will this fall into Q1? If I don't prepare for my sessions with you guys, and I just wake up in the morning and wing it, it's likely I'm going to get myself into a little bit of trouble. So you know those things. And things that go into the Q2 quadrant are proactive work items. These are things that you do so they don't become urgent. They always have high impact goals around them. You have a place you want to go with this, a thing you want to do. So you can be setting goals as a Q2 priority. It does require the second thing on the, or the third thing on the list here is creative thinking. Sometimes you have to think outside of the box, and that's okay. How do you think outside of the box? What do you guys do? Answer the question out loud. What do you do when you need new inspiration or new ideas? Where do you go?
The interesting part about the creative thinking part is sometimes it's I look at it, you have to have a stop. You have to do the pause before that kind of your part of your brain kicks in.
Yeah.
Because we're so focused on the tasks, there's no room. Like even right now, I had a brainstorm that I just wrote down that I might not have had if we hadn't been taking this class.
Yeah.
Just a
That's
real
good.
quick pop of creative
Same.
thinking.
Same.
That's great.
It's called, to me, it's called inspiration, and you capture those things, but it's great to stop, and because that's the part that really goes away when we're so busy doing the Q1 stuff.
If you spend all of your time protecting yourself from the saber-toothed tiger, you can't invent new ways to protect yourself from the saber-toothed tiger, right?
Yeah.
With regards to creative thinking, some people do like dream journals. They wake up in the morning and they write that down. Some people do brainstorming sheets where they literally have circles and lines and it all goes out. Whatever works for you is really what's going to be good. Sometimes creative thinking can come from just taking that pause time, sitting on the porch and looking at the sky. It allows for the creative thinking to come up. Then you really get into the planning stages. Once you get that brainstorm that you have there, Michael, and you get those galoshes on and you jump into that storm, that planning is important because that's what helps you get into the prevention mode. And with prevention, you can look at your whole list. Prevention is important because you look at this whole list of all these things, you find those big rocks, take care of those things so that they don't become urgent. Make sense?
Yeah.
Prevention also creates control.
Yeah.
I think control is that's the magic of our lives. The more we have of it, the better off our mental states are. It's
Absolutely.
when we're being controlled is when we're the worst,
Right.
like prison.
So the last item that's on this list that is a Q2 priority for extraordinary productivity, it's exactly what we're doing now. Taking time to learn something new and the renewal that comes from that. You can do that with podcasts. You can do that with YouTube. I mean, there are things that you can do to help yourself learn on a daily basis that are really easy to do while you're on the road. And that's part of our modern day world. You can literally listen to a podcast while you're driving around. That's okay. That's all right. That's a good thing. All of that helps you with productivity as long as it's uplifting. Now, something that's important here that comes up in all of my sessions, like this group, my group of people that I manage in my region tend to be very, very spiritual. Your spiritual time and your time with your God are not the same as your time for renewal for yourself and just you time,
Right.
where you are learning and having renewal. They're both important, but they are separate. So you cannot count your Bible study as your learning and renewal time. You need learning and renewal time for your brain that is healthy for you and your body and your brain. The spiritual time is equally as important, but they are separate. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to grasp because we get so connected to our spiritual self. But there's also that part where we are personally learning and growing as the human in this world, in the material world, right? The mundane world. So I always want to make that reference clear for everybody.
That's
Yeah.
goes along the lines because of what you said, as you pray like it all is up to God, but you act like it's all up to you. And in order to properly act in this world, if you are a disciple of, like you said, your God, you have to be put together and be
Absolutely.
doing these things.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you become a problem. You know, but the Lord wants successful people, and that can help other people. He doesn't want us to be a person that needs help.
Right.
Yep.
So that's why what you said, Grace, is true. We have to work on our personal human flesh and bone selves so we can be in those positions.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
very
always,
true.
and I always tell people, whatever it is, I mean, if you're not a spiritual person, there has to be something else that's your vice, you know, like,
Right.
because maybe not everybody in this meeting is that's, I just think it's so important. Even like, I don't know how many, like fitness is like a big thing. Like, that's why you guys get this on Tuesday mornings, is because that's a huge thing for me. Like, if I don't get my walk or I don't get my run, but going back to what Grace said, differently than my spiritual life, I do listen to podcasts sometimes on my run, and sometimes they do cross over with my work life, depending on what I need. Does that make sense? Like, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem on my walk, maybe listening to a sales strategy, which is different than my time when I go to church or go to my Bible study or whatever. That's a different.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Like, sometimes I don't mind mixing my morning walk with a sales. I mean, I don't know if that really. I don't know.
That's perfectly
sometimes they
fine.
can cross over a little.
Yeah, and that can cross over 100% because it's still growth and edifying you as the physical person, and
Right.
that's part of your physical world is your work.
Right.
And that the spiritual part is just It also needs to be nurtured, but it is separate. Because so often people will only focus on the spiritual part as their personal growth. And really it comes down to, like Michael was saying, and it's the old adage that prayer without action is just a wish.
Yep.
So you're always sharpening your saw, your brain, your mind for what we do in this world, whether it's parenting or work or woodworking, or, I mean, it doesn't even matter what it is, as long as it's not the spiritual part, because it's helping you be a better human.
Right.
And the spiritual part is equally, if not more important, but you're doing it anyway.
Right.
You need the time that's for your brain. And it is perfectly fine if your podcasts are work focused. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So you schedule, you've got these worksheets here, and you can schedule your big rocks. The good thing about anything that's sent to you digitally is you can print new ones and, you know, make scratch copies and go over it and over it and over it. But you want to basically lay out your week. I use a different layout. I start with Sunday and go through Saturday for my weeks. Whatever works for you, that's fine. It's the process that's important. The big rocks get put on the calendar, and everything you do is on one calendar. This is huge. Everything you do is on one calendar. And that's something I had to learn as a stylist, because if I had 2 different calendars, I was always going to double book myself and make mistakes. But your doctor's appointment, your meetings for work, your meetings with clients, your dates with your friends, whatever, it all goes into one place, or you cannot see it and organize it properly. Got it?
Yeah, you wouldn't have 2 checkbooks for one checking account that didn't ever speak to each other.
Right. Which is why I don't write checks.
Mhm.
Oh, you
Right.
spend money.
Yeah, I spend plenty of money. That part I have down.
Hey, let's stop the attacks, please.
There we go. That's it. Enough personal business.
Yeah. I didn't say it was good or bad, because, you know, a lot of times, Kevin, she's buying me stuff with that. So I'm not, it's a good thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I realize that I've assumed, and there's just, I thank you for letting me know. Yeah,
There
Yep,
we
yes.
go. All right.
Exactly.
that was inappropriate behavior.
So this is a really good example here of having your tasks that you want to accomplish for the week. And you can plug those tasks in, like they've got them right here at the bottom of each day. So on Tuesday, she needs to write a report and return the recorder. Well, it doesn't really matter when she does that. What does matter is she's got a call scheduled for India that has to take place at a very specific time. You can fill in the areas, but your task list, whether you keep it on the side or at the bottom, you basically start to look at, okay, I think I can do this task on this day, and roughly assign it the day. So it's all in accordance, in alignment. Everything else gets organized around the big rocks, always. And your Q2 time zone needs to go onto your calendar. So the evening, every evening for me, supposedly I leave the office at 5, supposedly. 4:15 I have marked on, yeah, it doesn't really happen often, but supposedly, right? 4:15 on my calendar, I have marked out every day I put a 15-minute time block to do my Q2 activities for the next day. What did I do today? What do I need to do tomorrow? At the beginning of every week, if you choose with the beginning, you would schedule your planning time. I have my planning time, as I mentioned earlier, Friday evening for my next week. The system you develop will be the system that works for you. The process is a one-size-fits-all. The way you do it is individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so you find what works best for you. This is something that I will do as well, and it is because I do work off of a digital calendar. You can also do this, and I highly encourage you to do this with colored pencils or something along those lines on a paper calendar, especially the first time you do it. Now, Jennifer's got everything that's a big rock in the same color. I do use different colors. My sales meetings with my sales team, I have as one specific color. I have specific team building calls where I will do with big groups. Those are a different color for me. I was a color specialist. I need colors.
Yeah.
I also work with somebody in the office who can't take it when there's more than 2 colors or 3 colors on a page. So he would do it just like Jennifer. Again, you need to find what works best for you. Color coding allows you to see this thing that's in color. That is a big rock that I cannot move. So she has some meetings that take place every single day of the week. I'd shoot myself in the head. Now, these might be, as far as I know, they might be all different meetings. You know, maybe it's meetings with all different clients, but that's her time that's blocked out just for meetings. That makes more sense than the same meeting every day. I would kill myself. But she also goes in here, she blocks out her lunch. Very important. She's got 2 days where she definitely takes lunch away, takes a break. I have to have my lunch booked on my calendar because I have a calendar that's open. If you're one of the people that I have in my region, you can go in through a booking system and reserve time with me. I allow them to do that. I don't have to book them. They find the time that's convenient. But if I don't put my lunch down on my calendar as unavailable, I get 0 time during the day. So think about that too. You have to have your breaks. She has booked here on Sunday, her family time completely booked out. She's got date night booked out. In the morning, she has very specific things. Now, see, she's got her run scheduled there too.
She is just the perfect person. Can I be Jennifer?
She is. Jennifer is the perfect person.
She has got her
Yeah.
family
No,
time.
it's-
She's got her date night, you know.
And
Part of
she's
the
got her Q2 planning at the each of every day.
Probably the biggest thing that helped me back in the day, I played manager for Big Five for a couple or 10 years. And learned that you always have a work board, a legal pad, and then you carried a 3x5 card in your pocket. And on that 3x5 card, it can have anything from something you noticed in the store. Make sure you kiss your girlfriend or wife today. Everything was on it. You never had anything on your mind. So you were free to be productive and help people in front of you.
Yeah, that's
And
another
then
thing
you
that
walked
comes
into the
from-
office and you reduced it onto the pad, and then everybody else could see what's going on and what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And it just created a whole flow.
It's really
Right,
true. Writing it down, getting it all booked helps free up your mind. Now, she's got a couple of things that she adds in that are color coded with different colors, like I mentioned earlier. So it's going to be a big rock, but it's a big rock with a different color because it means something specifically to her. These things might be tied together. However it works for you. But you're right, your mind is clear. We don't need to go through Anthony's and Aki. We've seen enough examples. here.
Anthony doesn't have it together as much as Jennifer anyway.
No. Anthony's
Aki, look at,
loser.
she's a mess. Look at how much free time she has.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
All right.
wrong with
She's
her?
just starting.
She's just starting. She's a,
She has no
she's a
life.
poser.
She's a trainee.
Well, look how late she is, though. She's taking a class. She's got a merchandising class, so she's clearly a student still as well. Right? But she still has her weekly Q2 planning, and like me, she has it on Friday evening and a daily at the end of every day. So whatever works for you works. You have these worksheets to play with. I want you to play with them over the next few days. It will change for you every week. It's always an evolving thing. But if you have those things down, it helps. It does help clear out your mind so it's not weighing on your shoulders all the time. That's how the Q2 time zones really help you achieve extraordinary productivity. Freeing up your mind is great. Then you have that space for creativity and what was it you called? You called it, Michael, brainstorming. It gives you that space to breathe. Now, whether you write things on a paper tablet and keep a 3x5 card in your pocket that reminds you, or you do it digitally, That's up to you. I work in the digital world, and I encourage you guys as much as you can in this world to do that, because there's a way to streamline it so all of your devices will sync up. Most importantly for me, because I have my devices synced to my phone as well, I get alerts all the time. I need the reminders. Oh yeah, I have a meeting coming up in 15 minutes. Oh yeah, I need to be on this call with this particular team. Oh, right, Michael's going out of town for a couple of days. I want to make sure he has snacks to take with him on the road. I have to give myself reminders. And I'm going to blame it right now on COVID fog, which I didn't have before, but I still needed the reminders. But we're going to go with that. I can't remember all my details, but I can program my phone or my calendar basically to prompt me and remind me so I remember, oh, right, I need to prepare for this meeting or whatnot. So thought, that's part of what we'll get into next week, is looking at how to do that. All right, so your homework. Work on these behaviors here. You're going to create your master task list, and don't quit the class because your list is too long. Your list is long because it's got the gravel on it as well. And the list never ends. So we're just going to accept that and roll on.
Just
From
business.
Yeah, that's the real world. That's the world we live in. But from that, pick out those things that truly are the most important things that need to go into your Q2 planning. And then do it on a weekly basis. Do it for the week. Plan out where you want it all to go. Put it on your calendar, which days. And then do your daily planning. And let me ask you this question before we get into this. I think this is the same video that we saw earlier. It's just a mistake that it's here. So we're going to skip it. I'm not sure how that happened, but we're going to skip it. So one thing that I want you to think about, and I'm going to ask you a question. At the end of the day, you have a list of 5 things you're supposed to do, let's say. At the end of the day, do you always get those 5 things done? Doesn't matter if it's 3, 5, or 20. Do you
Nope.
always get them? No.
No, never.
Is it the end of the world?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
But we're going to go with
Has
probably.
anybody died? No, good. Then we
Has
still have
anybody
something to work
died?
with.
Yeah.
That's right. So what happens when you're not done? You have not accomplished this goal. And I don't know about you guys. I'm sure that when you have a meeting with a client and they tell you they're going to get back to you in 10 minutes, 20 minutes later in the day, they always do, right? Always.
Never do.
Yeah. So what do you do with that task? Roll it over to the next day.
Yes, yes.
That's it. That's it. And we do this to ourselves all the time. We are complete failures because we didn't accomplish all 5 things. You got 4 things done. Wow. That's huge. You got 1 thing done. And you're waiting on other people to get back to you with the other information for these last 2 or 3 things. You've done everything you can, aside from going totally Sicilian and showing up at the door with a gun to get the answer. You roll it over to the next day. Review your tasks and your appointments. Whatever you're done with, you are done with. Do you have any projects that actually take longer than a day? Rhonda, do you have any projects that actually run throughout the week or the month?
Well, one of my biggest jobs, one of the things I do and that takes a lot of time is answering emails from, for Enjoy. So those all come to me, and phone calls too. So that never ends. But most of the stuff I do I can get done, or I can extend it to the next day or the next week or whatever.
But that's actually a really important thing to recognize. Those those emails that come into you and you have to get those done, you work on those as much as you can. But if you get to the end of the day and there's, 5 left, they're probably not going to die.
Right.
You just
Right.
move them to the next day.
And sometimes I'll pick out the ones that are that have the highest priority and just put the others, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then there are other projects that you work on that take a few days,
Mhm.
like your communication back and forth with writers.
Yeah.
It might take a few days. So not everything is a chore or a task that can be completed in one day for all of us. We have things that are ongoing.
Right.
That's okay. But what we also want to do is at the end of the day, take a look at what we did that was a success or that was good input or that was good advice. You go through, you check what you can at the end of the day. There's something here in the chats. Oh, okay. Michael, I'm so sorry. I completely missed that. We're almost done.
Wait a minute, I have a question.
Yes.
I won't be able to live and I will die. And I will flop around like a salmon on a boat deck. I don't know. What does Sicilian mean?
It's a kind of Italian.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I
what
get
mean?
that. Oh, okay. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, we kind of lose our temper.
Yeah.
The mafia is Sicilian.
Yeah, I thought it was a clinical term and you had not defined that.
No, the mafia is Sicilian. So when you go Sicilian, you kind of like, you lose your
Yeah, I got
temper.
it.
People die.
I'm satisfied now. You may continue.
All right, so you can move things over as you need to. And then I want you to go back and look at what was really good and highlight the good things of the day. That's called capturing the gold. So what stuff can you save and use later? A couple things happen when you highlight things. You're highlighting it, you're rereading it again, you're processing it again, you're embedding it a little bit more. It makes it come more forward in your brain and stick better. And then later when you go back to look over your notes, you can find it easier. Both of those things are true. All right, so this is your homework. Just going back in, finding those things that are your must-dos, moving things over when you need to, getting comfortable with that, organizing around the must-dos, those are your gravel items, and then doing your 30-10. You guys good with that? Can you commit to do that for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
30-10, the time you spend in Q2. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you've got 30 minutes to organize your week and 10 minutes at the end of each day to make sure you've done what you need to do and moved over those things that need to continue. Make sense?
Yes,
Okay. Can you guys commit that?
Mhm.
yes.
Okay. Is that
Is this-
everybody?
Is this a moment like from what was her name with the Sandra Bullock? Yes.
Yes.
All right. You guys are going to have a few minute break here. And I thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions, you can email me. You guys have my email address. Michael, they are
No.
yours now.
I want to say one thing before we totally break.
Uh-huh.
The reason why the gal quit the class that Grace did that one time when she wrote her whole list down, that woman created an elephant by putting every single thing that she had to do on one piece of paper. And she viewed that as, now I need to eat that whole thing all at once. I need to do everything right now.
Yeah.
And that's what freaks everybody out. This system, as you plan out all those activities, you're not going to do them all at once. You're going to plan them out over a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever. And then the beautiful part about this is you can release that from your mind as to being worried about doing the task, because you're going to run into that task as you hit the day that you scheduled it. So
Right.
if you have to do, like, the 25th of the month is the day we usually start hitting up our accounts to run down ads.
Mhm.
If you're worried about that on the 18th, oh my gosh, I've got to do that. No, you don't. I have it all planned out on the 25th. I don't have to worry about that right now. I will run into that task on the 25th. I can focus on the things I need to do right now until I get there. That, to me, is one of the most magical parts about this whole deal. Now I'm eating my elephant one bite at a time. And
Right.
I've planned it out exactly the way I want to eat it. It's an amazing thing. So if you do anything from this class today, that will relieve so much stress from feeling like you have to get all this stuff done. You take control of all that stuff and you plan it out the way you want it to, and then you leave it alone and run into it as you get to it.
Very true. Thank you, Michael.
Good point.
And the other thing that I think happened with this woman is if you put on your list, putting on your socks, then putting on your
Right.
shoes.
Yeah.
You overdid it. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, you
true.
overdid it. Yeah, and
True.
yeah, I mean, that's part of the stuff. It's your gravel. You're going to do it. You're not even thinking about it. It's on your list. You just, whatever you brain dump, you brain dump. Go back later, then take a breath, the power of the pause, right? Take a breath, find those things that are most important. If something is urgent, put it in that category 1. Let's get it done right away. Let's get it taken care of immediately so it's off your urgent list. And then breathe. Go on. You're still going to put your socks
And
on.
I think it's also important to recognize that your big rocks could change
Oh,
overnight,
yes. Very
Yep.
true.
you
Very
know,
true.
and that's
20 was fabulous.
what we all get frustrated with is like, you know, Rhonda has it perfectly out and then 2 distribution drivers quit. And, you know, so then all of a sudden she has big rocks that she wasn't, you know, especially in, like we have that too, but her job is like, she never knows a writer's done, a distribution's done, you know, whatever. But I mean, even in your personal life, you know, you could go, okay, I'm gonna do this, but a big rock comes up.
And
That's
that's
good.
the thing is you might come up, some of you reacted to the date night rock on that one gap. Maybe none of you are doing date nights and you should be.
Mhm.
And if
No,
you've
it's
got
true.
control of all this stuff and you plan that out and you treat it like a doctor's appointment, you wouldn't
Yeah.
break a doctor's appointment.
No,
You wouldn't break an appointment with
Mhm.
a big client that's possibly going to sign a 12-issue contract. You'd never do it.
Mhm.
How do you treat your date night appointment?
no,
And
it's
Amen.
so
And if something else comes up, whatever, it's no big deal. No,
So
you got to
true.
treat it just as important as that.
It's so
And if
true.
you're not doing it, then you create that rock and throw it in your bowl.
Yeah, no, it's true.
All
Noted.
right, guys. Good stuff.
Thank you, Grace.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice visiting
And-
with y'all.
Speaking of Rhonda again, and knowing that she just had 2 delivery drivers that quit and all of that crap that happens to her, let's not bother her at the office unless we
Right.
need to.
I always go in and I wave and then I wait for her to say,
Okay, good.
or I walk away.
All right.
No, we got a new delivery driver, so we're good.
I
Okay.
know, okay. I'm so sad I don't get to do it anymore, Rhonda.
All right. All right. I will see
Bye,
you guys in
Grace.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
See you later.